Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to Uncut Gaming.
Welcome back to Uncut
Welcome
Gaming,
back to
where
Uncut.
we're doing our final segment for now
Yeah.
of Glen 2 Chronicles.
Where we're gonna open up. There's 8 boxes of Marvel.
Yeah.
And we're gonna review 7 of them. We're gonna cover all of them, but we're gonna review 7 of them because there's one that we haven't played yet, and we'll talk about why in a second. If you want us to film a playthrough of any one of those, and we could combine more than one chronicle in a single playthrough, then tell us in the comments below, and we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, if you're curious about one of them, or if you have questions, feel free to post. We'll reply if you need to make videos on the subject.
Yeah. Okay, the first one is called the Dragon Boat Races.
Oh, I remember that one. That was cute, actually.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Dragon Boat Races very kind of quickly. So it comes with new tiles, which allow us to have double movement points. And it comes with new cards, and it comes with boats, lovely boats.
Yeah.
And it comes with these river tiles. All right? Let's move these aside for a sec.
You only have 2 river tiles, right?
Yeah. So basically what happens is that we are placing these river tiles between the players, and then we put our boat on our starting castle, and instead of, on any tile, whenever you get a movement point, instead of moving your person, you can move the boat clockwise. And basically, thematically, the boat moves around the rivers through other players' rivers as well.
Yeah.
And you get bonuses whenever you reach specific points, specifically the half points here and castles of other people.
Yeah, so on my castle, you'd have
A number of players.
number of players as these seals, and then once he done finishes his entire round and gets to my castle, he gets to take those and pick one of them.
Yeah,
as
not
a
an entire
bonus.
round, just getting to your castle, right?
Yeah.
Then I can choose one of those. And I think,
I mean, round doesn't.
yeah, and I think that we point victory points according to the person who finished his round first. So that's
there are
victory points and some barrels, and the last one gets a penalty of his coins not worth any victory points.
oh, so that's why you have 4, because anyone who doesn't complete it
Yeah.
gets a penalty.
Oh, right. Yes.
So that gives you a bit of an incentive to use your movement points for something else and makes them a more interesting resource.
Yeah.
And also adds a few more tiles for movement, so that's nice.
So what did we think when we played this?
It was cutesy. It wasn't good enough on its own. You need to add something else to spice it up, but it was very nice. It gave you an additional race to focus on in addition to the competitions, and it gives you like, what, 15 points for winning?
Yeah, which
15
is a
points
lot.
is a lot in Glen Moore. Like a lot. It's definitely worthwhile chasing for that one.
Yeah.
Very cute. Adds a lot of variety in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just needs something else.
Yeah, there's also this beat of trying to build river tiles to your left, to your right, not to your left, so that you can move further ahead, and maybe you don't want to build any river tiles so that you could go back to your own castle quickly, or you can build river tiles just to make it longer for other people who are investing in this.
Yeah. It's like after
strategy.
your boat passes on the left, you want to expand it on the left
Exactly.
to slow other people down. It's cute.
It's cute. The next one is called Highlander, There Can Only Be One. So if you remember
Love
this,
the naming conventions.
yeah. So this one just comes with a mountain, which we place somewhere.
Walk over here.
Yep. And then whenever you want to pass over it, you need to pay a resource or a coin. And the person who decides to stop at the mountain, meaning he loses a turn, right? He gets to collect all of the stuff that's been gathered there. So again, thematically very cute, I think. You either
You go on.
Yeah, you either sort of need to spend resources in order to move quickly, or you spend the night there and then you can get whatever people left behind. And from a strategical standpoint, it's also kind of cute because if there's nothing really interesting that came along, you can just take it and wait for other things
You can rush and then go on the mountain, then wait for other people to pass you by, you get more resources, and you see what opens up. If I remember correctly, there was a variant where if you're the last player, you do not have the option. Right?
I don't remember that, but I do remember that there's a variant of the mountain just covering one space instead of two.
Because when we played it, it felt like if you're last, then there's absolutely no reason not to take it. It's just free resources for you. So the strategical decision is only in a higher number of players where your chances of being last aren't that high. I remember something about a variant where if you're the last player, you cannot take the resources.
I don't remember that.
Okay, but either way, it's cute, and it's also, I think, the smallest of all of them. It's like the least significant, but it adds a bit of variety.
Yeah. By the way, I believe that they say that it adds like 5 to 10 minutes of playtime. These first two Chronicles.
Because they add extra tiles and extra actions, so that's nice.
Yeah. The next one is really interesting. It's called Old Jamie's Single Cask Reserve.
Oh, right. That's the one that turns it into Vinos.
Yes. In which we start with our very own whiskey cellar, I believe. And when we get whiskey, we get to put it on here. And then when we pass over, let's see, these tiles with this icon.
It has a specific icon.
And there's a lot of them.
Different color.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. We could age our whiskey. So that means moving it further down to the right.
Yeah, and these are tiles that you actually take and you activate as opposed to these.
Right. And when you land on here or pass over one of these cellars, you can sell one of your whiskey barrels over to this cellar specifically, and you will get the amount of victory points listed here. So you're losing on the contests, but you're gaining victory points from this.
And these will usually be more victory points.
Yeah. And as a free action, you can spend, I think, coins. I don't see it, but if I remember correctly, you can spend coins to make your cellar longer. So you can actually make it three cards long, which means that you can, if you age all the way, one whiskey cask will be worth 15 victory points.
Yeah, that's a challenge, but it is manageable.
Yeah. So very cute addition, actually. It makes the whiskey barrels, there's another use.
Different competition.
Yeah. And I also like the fact that you can sell or you can age. So that's really interesting.
It changes the way the game feels. It adds a bit of a completely different type of resource management to it.
Yeah, which is cute. It doesn't add too much complexity, and it's really thematic. And that's really cute. The next one is called Hammer of the Scots, in which this one we haven't played because it's 3 or 4 players only.
Right.
So I'll briefly explain what happens here. Basically, there is the Englishman, it's called, and it's on the track just like any other player. The thing is that we control him. So if you take one of these tiles with the icon on it.
These probably correlate to cards, and the cards
themselves
and there are
additional icon. Yeah, and we replaced the base game cards, I believe, at least some of them, with.
Yeah, you're mixing expansions a bit.
Yeah, mixing expansions. Okay, so here are the cards.
Exactly.
So then you get control of the Englishman. Okay. Now, in order to, what we do with the Englishman is that when it's his turn, the control over him will actually move him and play as him. So you can take the tile, etc. But there is a cost to it in coins. So you have to pay coins, again, 1, 2, or 3, and then you actually do your turn. Now, if you don't want to, or you cannot because this is all full, the 3, you still move him, you discard the tile that he moved onto, and you get the coins
that's
are
interesting.
here. Right, yeah. I'm not sure why they limited it to 3, but I guess there's a point to it. I think it could have been nice for 2 players as well to shift control over the Englishman.
Maybe it's a bit too zero-summy.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe having the Doom die and the Englishman remove your tiles was a bit much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way, we'll try it as soon as we can.
Yep. So that's expansion number 4. We're halfway there.
So that was with that resource, but what was this one? Do you remember?
So that's a good question, actually. I don't think that we saw any use for these, nor did we see any use for these, I believe.
Maybe they're
planning on
building an expansion.
Yeah. Expansion Chronicles, number 5,
Yep.
which is address to the Haggis,
Oh, right. That was the one with the... Yeah, that was cute.
in which we can
Make haggis.
Haggis, yeah.
Which sounds like the most
Yeah.
unappetizing thing ever. Like, I
Right.
know you're a vegetarian and you probably are
Yeah.
much more grossed out by it than I am, but...
All right. So this expansion allows us to turn
Sheep.
sheep into haggis. And what happens basically is that you pick up, I think, one of 2 face-up haggis or one of the face-down haggis, and you put it on your little
Haggis board.
haggis table, right? And then what happens at the end of the round,
After the contest.
right, we get to roll the die, I believe, 4 times, and then we can at most remove 3 haggis that correspond to the number, right? So let's say I had a 1 and a 3 and maybe another 2, whatever. At most 3 haggis. And then we get victory points equal to the sum of the haggis times the number of haggis tiles you removed.
Yes.
So in this
you
case,
want some variety because there's a much higher chance of getting a 1 or a 2 than a 3.
really?
Yeah, the die is not...
Oh,
it's not balanced.
4 ones. Okay. So in this case, I would have gotten 6 times 3 victory points, right? So that's a lot of victory points.
Yeah.
And you can also, I believe,
And this is each contest.
yeah, and I also believe that you can pay casks in order to roll the die just for yourself if you want to get additional haggis. And there is a limit of 5 haggis on your table at any point in time.
Yeah, it feels a bit random when we explain it, but when you play it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of just an extra resource to both use the casks for and use the sheep for, and it's nice. It also adds a lot of tiles that let you generate sheep in addition to just adds 1, but it adds tiles for sheep.
Yeah. I think it's really cute because
It's adorable.
you get to choose a haggis. I mean, from the explanation alone, it sounds a bit boring, I think. But when you actually play it, the decision of whether you want to take another haggis that's worth 3 when you already have 3, or you want to take another thing, there's a little bit of risk reward here, but it's kind of cute and also very thematic. If you could put that card over there.
Yeah, it's also it's not as big of a deal.
None of them are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
but
at least
this one actually combines really well into the base game. If you would have told me that this wasn't a base game, I would have believed it. It just flows really well. It doesn't add a completely different objective. So highly recommended to give it a try.
Yeah. Okay, the 6th one is called The Dubious Tommy of Scottish History.
Oh, right, that's the one with the awesome art.
Yes. So what happens here is that we get these tiles, which allow us to flip over the landmark tile. So basically, we replace the entire...
It gives you this icon.
Yeah. So basically, it replaces the entire deck of landmark cards. And now we have, when we get the card, we get an additional, the regular one-time action.
Yeah.
But then, if you activate this icon,
And flip it.
you can flip it. And some of them have costs to them to flip them. Like, for example, I believe this one means that you need to pay 1 dude or, other costs.
But this one doesn't have a cost.
But then when they're flipped, they have additional benefits. Like this one, for example, says that the conversion table for me alone for whiskey, the whiskey competition
is much
worth
higher.
Yeah,
Much higher.
and I believe they're also worth 1 point just for the sake of it. So again, this adds just a little bit, but very in a very well managed way.
And
because
the art's also really,
because there's
really
the
adorable.
built side and the destroyed side, for example, and
Yeah.
here's Loch Ness in all of its glory.
I think there's another one for Loch Ness. This was another lake monster, but the Loch Ness one is really cute.
Yeah.
It's very, very cutesy, and I personally really like it.
Yeah, because it adds something extra, which is pretty small. It gives you a little mini goal to chase for. And it's, on the other hand, it's not a very big deal to explain or to
Yeah, if you played the base
take into
game
account.
once, you'll have a lot of fun with those.
Yeah. One before last, 7th, between a rock and a hard place. This is really interesting as well, because here we get to have nay and yay tokens.
That's the one with the extra goals.
Yeah, those are the decisions. We open up a certain number of decisions, I don't remember how many, and I think that we reveal them during...
Isn't it number of players plus 1?
I think so, but I also think that... Yeah, whatever.
No, we played with 5 when we played it.
Yeah.
We had 5 decisions, so a large number.
Right. And I believe that whenever you take a percentile, right, there's a mini pause in the game where we can vote on one of these orders.
Yeah, and you start with free A and free nay tokens.
Yes. And so the person who took the percentile can choose an order, and then we, in secret, choose whether we want to vote nay or vote yay. Once during the game, you can actually use 2 tokens instead of 1. And if it's a tie, then the order is in place. Otherwise, it's not in place. And then this just gives everybody, another goal to chase for at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't remember all of them, but for example, this one says that if you have at least 3 and 3, you get 10 points. They're all worth 10 points, by the way. So it's really cute, right? Another thing that you can either block people from having, or you can make sure that everybody has it. And then...
It adds a bit of a strategy to it, because suddenly specific tiles are worth a bit more or a bit less according to your vote. The fact that you can double nay or double yay once per game also makes it very cute.
Yeah.
And the last one?
And the last one is called the penny mobs, which refers to a real mob.
Biggest one.
Yeah, which refers to a real one, a real mob, called the penny mob. This one, these cards come in different phases of the game. But basically what's happening here is that we have these certain number of mobsters, and they are worth minus victory points, as you can see here. So if you actually own them at the end of the game, then it's worth minus victory points. But
you start with -7. You start with 7 pennies, which are -7 victory points, and at the end of each round, you have the option to take one of those pennies, which again are minus victory points when they're in your hand, and put them on a criminal of your choice. And
instead of placing a penny on a mobster, you can actually just take the mobster. And again, it'll balance out perhaps the number of victory points. But then you get a certain ability, which are very strong. So for example, this one says that you can steal money off of the board. This one says that whenever you get 6 VP, you get an additional VP. This one says that you can move, I guess. Yeah, you can move tiles.
And they can't be trading tiles.
Yeah. And there are many, many cards, and we actually reveal them during the game. Not all of them are revealed at the start of the game. Oh, some of them are revealed at the start of the game, and then some of them are revealed at
later phases,
round B. So that's another very interesting mini expansion to the game.
This is also the most intricate one because there's like an entire list of if you're using this expansion with the Hammer of the Scots or with the Haggis expansion, then these are the cards that are relevant. So this is definitely the most complicated one. The most varied and can be done with any of the other expansions, adding different cards each time.
Yeah. So basically, those are the Chronicles. In general, I can say that I think, tried to use, for some of our games we used 1, for some of our games we used 2.
I think in most cases we use 2.
2, yeah. And it feels excellent, actually. It really spices up the game. It makes it just a little bit different. It heightens the replayability of this game to almost infinity because every combination will feel just a little bit different. Because again, every expansion sort of shifts you in a very specific direction.
And
it gives
some of them feel completely different if you play them with a different expansion. Like the last one, the Penny Mob, feels very different whether you play it with expansion 1 or expansion 4. So
Yeah. Okay, so those were the 8 Chronicles. Again, maybe more will come. I don't know. And
if you guys want us to play or are curious about any of them, then comment or message us and we'll definitely go for it. So links to the review and the first round and the first playthrough should be somewhere on the screen. So what do you think about the general concept? Like if other games gave you this pick and choose, mix and match, base game and other stuff.
I really like it. I mean, I think it's excellent. But it's really tough to do. For this specific game, I think there were, first of all, so this is the second publishing of the game, right? So they had time to really understand the core.
A while ago, and it's also popular. Like it's been out of print for ages, and
right. So they knew that they have a very interesting core game, and then they had time to build expansions around it. Whereas if this were a new game plus expansions, then all I'm saying is that it still would have been great, but the chances of the mini expansions to be good, again, based on our past experiences with games that did that, are lower. The chances are lower because the designer and the community doesn't really understand the core game, so they don't know whether an expansion will make it,
Yeah, I think Alchemists, the first expansion, the only expansion, did this well. They gave you like 4 modules and you can just kind of mix and match the ones you want in, and they were various levels of depth and complexity, but you're right. I don't think it fits all games, but it definitely works here.
Yeah, very much so. Yep. Okay.
So thank you guys.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed this review. A lot of links in the description below if you want to check anything out. And tell us if you want to see any of these marvelous Chronicles being actually played and I just talked about.
Yep. Thank you, and see you guys next time.
Bye.